This will ultimately transform our entire organization into a community of men and women. We never stop.
Particular ranking system.
We never stop. We don't sleep, etc. We don't sleep.
I welcome each of you here in this summit, and I thank you for celebrating your essence with us today. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Hero Ed TV. We continuously tread an unfamiliar terrain. 2020 has been a difficult balancing act for schools and their leaders. Hero Summit premieres a platform that always allows us to be inspiring as we actually move forward. This is an internet broadcast. We call it the Hero Ed TV, which support finest ideas, interviews with heroes in education, and so we can create a common platform for thriving. These live conversations and interviews are hosted by yours truly, with the dynamic support from Mr. Nikhil Chopra, the President for International Partnerships, with the unbridled support of all our Hero members and all our founding members, from the academe in different regions of the world. The human capital performance gap threatens our nation's ability to compete and is emerging as one of our nation's critical business issues. The school had taken the role to prepare learners for work. But given the industry feedback, there seems to be a widening gap of the skills required by them. Tony Wagner of Harvard University worked to uncover the survival skills required for the 21st century. To accomplish this, hundreds of CEOs in business, nonprofits, and educational institutions were interviewed. A list of 7 skills that people will need to survive and thrive in the 21st century was compiled from their answers, and this is what he shared. Skills number 1, critical thinking and problem-solving skill. Skill number 2, collaboration across networks and leading by influence. Skill number 3, agility and adaptability. Skill number 4, initiative and entrepreneurship. Skill number 5, effective oral and written communication. Skill number 6, accessing and analyzing information. Skill number 7, curiosity and imagination. Today's Hero Ed TV episode, we will be here to contextualize all of these Hirable skills in the Philippine setting. We have invited the Program Director of Bayan Academy, Mr. Carlos Sagon, to help us understand how we can support schools for the 21st Century Challenge in preparing students to be highly employable. Mr. Carlos Sagon, as I've mentioned, is the Director of Bayan Academy's Consultancy and Research Technology, or what we call CREST, Bayan Educational Systems and Technologies, or BEST, and Training of Professionals, top units. As such, he spearheads Bayan Academy's consultancy, research, education, and training initiatives with management, entrepreneurship, and social entrepreneurship as main focus areas. He has done numerous areas of industry studies, feasibility studies, impact assessments, market and beneficiary profiling, and organizational assessments. As such, he has been involved in consulting for and developing enterprises at the startup acceleration and expansion stages. Ladies and gentlemen, before the heart-to-heart conversation, I'd like to present to you first Mr. Carlo Sagon as he presents what Bayan Academy can do for all of us. Welcome to Hero Ed TV, Carlo. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, Dr. Bryce. Good afternoon as well to the various viewers of Hero Ed TV, to the members of Hero, and all the school heads and leaders that are tuned in today to our program. And hopefully, through this 1-hour conversation, we can add value to the operations of our partner schools. So before, as mentioned by Dr. Bryce, before we go into the detailed conversation that we're about to have, I hope that you could allow me to share a few slides, share a few minutes, just to give an introduction about Bayan Academy. Of course, a lot of us here, it would be the first time that you would be hearing about Bayan Academy, so I hope to give a brief introduction and why we're here, partnered with Hero, what our objectives are. And of course, our program for this afternoon is about 21st century skills and why it's very important for us to provide or to produce hireable graduates for the industry. So hopefully, by the end of this short presentation, I can add value to those topics. So by the way, by way of introduction, Bayan Academy is an NGO. It's a Philippine-based NGO, and we're based in Manila. And although we're a lean organization, we have delivered our services and programs throughout the country. And in this particular year, hopefully, with the help of Hero, we can expand and democratize our programs to the different jurisdictions where Hero's members are. So just to give an overview of the brief presentation that I will make, as I said, I'll just give a brief introduction about Bayan Academy, what we do, what we've been doing in the past, and what our future programs will be. I'll be sharing something about how we ourselves navigated through this crisis, and I hope that I can, in sharing that experience, I can impart some lessons that can be applicable in our partner organizations. I'll be introducing the partnership between Bayan Academy and Hero and why the partnership is very important for Bayan Academy's plans in 2021 and beyond. And lastly, directly relevant to our discussion this afternoon is the question, why must we consider 21st century skills in the first place if we're gonna talk about effective education and a better educational system in whichever jurisdiction the school is located. So for the first section, just a brief introduction about Bayan Academy. So what is Bayan Academy as an NGO? Our DNA is really about the entrepreneurship and management programs that we have been offering in the past decade since our inception in 2009. So we just had our first full decade a couple of years back. And we've been known, really, in the Philippines for our entrepreneurship and management programs. And we're actually positioned as a servicer of servicers. And as such, we actually work with educational institutions, sectoral authorities, government, and enterprises at various sizes. So when I say various sizes, we work with the large enterprises or the big corporations up to the micro enterprises at the grassroots. Even before they become enterprises, we already deal with them. And Bayan Academy is also into online learning management systems. So even before the crisis happened, we've already gone towards that direction. And it's such a blessing because when the crisis came and the advent of the shift to the online delivery systems came along, we were quite prepared and we were able to continue to help the beneficiary sectors that we serve. So, in a nutshell, Bayan Academy is about democratizing these 5 E's. So, as mentioned a while ago, we're really a servicer of servicers. So, when I say democratize, we actually conceptualize and develop our own programs, and through our network, through our partners, we actually impart these E's. So, education, entrepreneurship, employment. So those are the 3 main E's. And in the recent years, we've delved into environmental protection and ethical management. So a lot of our programs, in fact, all our programs are actually catering towards these 5 E's. With regard to democratizing education, so we've historically been designing, developing, and delivering educational technologies founded on the very important whole brain thinking and learning and self-mastery. So all our education programs are founded upon these principles. So whole brain thinking, meaning the different quadrants of the brain must be utilized in full such that we can develop a whole brain product of our educational system or learners. And then self-mastery is quite interesting because if you look at it, if you think about it, the self-mastery skills that we're actually pushing are 7 lifelong self-mastery skills that have been, in a way, not been given as much attention in the traditional educational institutions. So, although these are quite obvious that they're important, for example, learning to think, learning to intuit, learning to feel, learning to communicate, learning to do, learning to lead, and learning to become the best person that you can become. So these are quite simple sounding words or concepts, but in fact, these are very important to be integrated or to be learned by people from the basic education to higher education, and even as we go through our careers and our lives. So that's something that the traditional learning institutions have somewhat failed to put focus on. So that's something that has been highly rated in our educational programs, and it's something that we also would like to share to the membership of Hero. So we also do teachers training for innovative learning methodologies and materials development. So later on, I'll be showing some schools wherein we run these kinds of program in the past. So we're also delivering the Excellence in Educational Transformation Award. So it's an awards program that we're actually delivering in partnership with the Philippines Department of Education. And it's actually a corporate social responsibility program of Rex Books or Rex Education. It's actually one of the largest publication companies or publishers here in the Philippines. And historically, in the 10 years or more than 10 years of existence of Bayan Academy, we've actually serviced the entire educational spectrum from the grassroots education at the community level, at the basic education level, even up to the K-12, the senior high school, the higher education level. So we've been delivering BS entrepreneurship programs as well at the college level. At the TVET level, so we're very much involved in the technical vocation and education and training in the Philippines, and even postgraduate. So we're currently partnered with a business school in the Philippines, Ateneo Graduate School of Business. We're running a master's course, and in the past, we've also run an executive doctorate on a leadership course in Development Academy of the Philippines. So from grassroots up to the doctorate level, we've designed, delivered a program for that. So just to give you an overview of the schools that we've been partnered with in the past, these are just some of them. There are a lot more, but just to show you some of their logos. I've mentioned Development Academy of the Philippines, wherein we delivered the Executive Doctorate in Educational Leadership Program. The Ateneo Graduate School of Business, where we're currently delivering the Master in Social Entrepreneurship Program. And for example, in higher education, in Assumption College in San Lorenzo, Manila, in Makati, we've run the BS Entrepreneurship Program. We've run Master in Business Administration in University of Makati. We've repositioned Elizabeth Seton to become an entrepreneurship-focused high school, and so on and so forth with these other universities and colleges. So this is what I've been telling you about with regard to the Excellence in Educational Transformation Award. So as I've said, we've partnered with the country's Department of Education and Rex Bookstore. So it's their corporate social responsibility program, actually. We've been running it for 6 years already, and the objective of the program is to recognize innovations in schools. So these are innovations in curriculum development, in methodologies, in materials development, in administrative processes and systems, and learning environment. So you would notice these areas of innovations are actually very important in pushing for a 21st century learning environment in our educational institutions. So through these awards programs, we recognize those innovations. So we get submissions from all over the country, and there's a screening committee that actually chooses the top schools with the top innovations in those areas. And in the 6 years that we've been running it, we've already recognized 39 schools that we've fully documented through case studies. And these are fully published in 6 book volumes. And again, the intention is to democratize these innovations such that the other educational institutions can follow suit. With regard to democratizing employment and entrepreneurship, so as you saw a while ago, it's about education. So now I'm transitioning to employment and entrepreneurship. And it's very much connected because whatever the design of our educational programs are, should be aligned to where our learners would actually go or apply the competencies that they've learned after they've gone through our program. So Bayan Academy has been a partner in developing the country's, the Philippines, National Technical Education and Skills Development Plan. So for this current planning cycle, we were the ones who did the research, and we put together the plan, of course, in partnership with TESDA, the lead agency mandated for the implementation of this particular plan, of course, with the other government agencies for workforce readiness. So right after putting together that plan, of course, we endeavored to actually implement it at the level of the 8 priority industries of the Philippines that we've identified. So later on, I will provide you with a list of the different priority industries from tourism, construction, ICT, and so on and so forth. And in the process of bringing down this plan to the different industries, we worked with these industry associations that you can see on your screens. And these are actually the biggest umbrella industry associations in the country. So for example, IBPAP, the IT and Business Process Association of the Philippines, is the industry association that we've worked with for the ICT or IT BPM industry. So we talked with the captains of the industry, we solicited their inputs, and we actually put together action programs that would put the National Technical Education and Skills Development Plan to life at the different priority industries. So these are just some of the institutions that we've worked with in the past. I'm not going to go through them one by one, but just to show you some of the work that we've done. So there's government, there are corporations, and there are development organizations as well. And a lot of our programs and our designs and the way we deliver our services and operations is actually founded on the frameworks and the inspiration coming from Dr. Eduardo Morato, our mentor and leader here in Bayan Academy, who to date has been able to publish 52 books already. So a lot of the frameworks that we push are actually coming from those books. That's why we're very fortunate to have a key resource person in Dr. Morato. So he was the former dean of AIM, Asian Institute of Management, and he's the chairman now of Asian Center for Entrepreneurship in Ateneo de Manila University. And a lot of the things we do is actually inspired by our leader. So just to share with you what we've done in transitioning through this crisis. Of course, last March, Manila, Philippines was also on community lockdown as pushed by the government. And Bayan Academy was hardly hit. Of course, all our education programs, our training programs, our research programs are anchored on face-to-face methodologies. And of course, we had to re-strategize, number one, for ourselves, to sustain our organization as well, but also to be meaningful for the stakeholders that we serve in this time of crisis. So, as mentioned a while ago, the priority sectors that we serve are actually encapsulated in these E's, so employment, entrepreneurship, and education. And we've ideated on the Sulong series, or in Filipino, it actually means progress. So when you say Sulong Trabaho, it's progressive employment. When you say Sulong Negosyo, it's progressive business. When you say Sulong Eskwela, it's actually progressing through e-learning. So in a way, we played around that nomenclature for our programs. And the one for employment is actually for outplacement services, because we knew that a lot of corporations would be retrenching. For the business sector, it was about business continuity services. And for relevant to this partnership, very relevant to this partnership, is Sulong Eskwela, or Sulong or Progressing in E-Learning, which is about teacher training better to the new normal of education. So, entrepreneurship courses to its online version. So that's something that we're pushing through the bayanacademy.edu program. And our best-selling course, so as I've mentioned a while ago, Self-Mastery, was also transitioned to its e-course version. So that's something that we also look forward to sharing with the network of, or the members of Hero. So now, that's the brief introduction of Bayan Academy. So I hope that you now know a thing or two about us, more than just a small NGO in Manila. So we're very lucky to have this partnership with Hero, and we're actually joining forces and putting on the table our expertise such that we can become effective contributors to the development of the members of Hero. So, considering what we've done in the past, so you've heard our programs, the Sulong series or the Progressing series for educators, for the employees, and for the enterprises. So in the past year, we've actually just operated from August until December because the whole time from March until August was a re-strategizing period. But in the course of transitioning to an online delivery system, we've actually kept the organization afloat. And because we have a full year now and we have partners such as Hero with us now, we're actually quite bullish and bold in our forecast for this year that we can actually deliver big outcomes for the sectors that we serve. So big actually is representative of our key strategies for the year. So these are continue to bring our current digital programs to the next level of quality and scale. And we will continue to integrate more programs for national prominence in multiple sectors. So not just education, employment, and entrepreneurship, all the other sectors as well. We hope to be involved with them. We hope to go broader on a broader scope and deeper with the sectors that we already serve. And of course, with partners such as Hero, we hope to go global. So as I've said, we've conceptualized and developed a lot of intellectual capital and programs already. And the mission of Bayan is actually to democratize these programs such that other stakeholders in development can utilize these programs. So we hope that we can share that with the stakeholders of Hero as well. So you can see the big strategies on top. And through the partnership with Hero, we hope that we can continue democratizing education, effective entrepreneurship, and employment for every Hero, not just in the Philippines, but in other jurisdictions as well. So with the last section of my presentation, I'm going to delve on why we have to actually consider 21st century skills. Especially with us, educational institutions or those who are involved in the education sector. So again, I'm going to anchor this discussion on our research that we did in 2018 that led to the conceptualization of the Philippines National Technical Education and Skills Development Plan. So that's the national policy of the country for workforce readiness in essence. So just a background on the research that we did, there was the common understanding that's going around is that a lot of the educational programs are actually not matched with the needs of the industries. But when we did the research, we did the numbers and we went through the programs one by one. The schools are actually offering the programs that are supposed to be aligned with the priority industries of the country. What we saw as a critical issue was there was underskilling and undereducation in the graduates of these programs. So there was a match in what was being offered, but the quality of education is not at par with what the industries are actually asking for. So that's the main critical finding that we had in this particular research endeavor. And one of the manifestations of that issue is there was a survey that was conducted for around 60,000 Filipino students. And one of the findings from that study conducted by Inspiring Minds, if I remember correctly, was that the top 50 colleges and universities among the 2,000 universities and colleges from which the 60,000 Filipino respondents came from have highly employable graduates. So that means that the 1,950 graduates have a lot of catching up to do. And in fact, for these 1,950 schools that are not on the top 50, obviously, their graduates would have to wait an average of 5 years just to be employed. So in that period of time, of course, they would have to find some work. And from the graduate's perspective, that results in underemployment. So they would be graduates of a business administration course, but they could end up working on a blue-collar job just to make ends meet. From the industry's perspective, on the other hand, it would redound to additional costs for human capital development. Because at the end of the day, these industries would do everything that they can such that their companies can be globally competitive. So they would need to achieve their performance objectives at the end of the day, And if the schools can produce those graduates, those skilled graduates, they would have to retool their recruits once they're onboarded in the company. So it redounds to additional costs for the companies. So in bringing the National Technical Education and Skills Development Plan of the country to the level of the priority industries, we actually worked with the 10 industry associations or organizations that I told you about a while ago with all their logos in the previous slides. And we conducted over 40 technical working groups with them. It was participated by over 150 industry captains, meaning the leaders of the different companies of these industry organizations. And 9 government agencies contributed to this endeavor of producing the action programs that are industry-specific. So we came up with these outputs. There were 8 sets of action programs and resource allocation plans, and we actually ended up with 11 ICT-enabled curricula that utilized inputs from the industry captains. So just to give you an overview of what outputs we came up with for the different priority industries. So for this set, tourism, construction, and IT BPM. So these are the rapidly growing industries in the country with a forecast of workforce needed at 1.6 million, 1.3 million, and 0.8 million respectively in the planning cycle. So they needed tourism entrepreneurship, tourism enterprise supervisors course, building information modeling, meaning project management at the construction site. For IT BPM, they wanted professional courses. So they wanted it general rather than language specific, such that when they get on board the IT BPM companies, the company-specific technology can be taught to them easily. For this particular group of priority industries, manufacturing and agriculture, so in contrast to the first segment, these have negative or minimal growth in the planning cycle, but nonetheless, it's going to contribute to high value added, and it has a very good multiplier effect. So these were identified as priority industries. So what the industries wanted were the foremans, program for foremans, because the technical skilled workers in the companies, in the manufacturing companies, when they're suddenly promoted to a management level, they don't know how to manage people in their operations because they're highly technical people, and that becomes a problem for the productivity of the companies. For agriculture, it's about smart farming and agro-entrepreneurship. And for the last 3 priority industries, it's about foremanship, again, for electronics and semiconductors. For transportation and logistics, the main demand is really about their driving force. So the integration of defensive driving skills, meaning not just with the competencies of driving, but maintaining their fleet. Because if the industry don't have the competent drivers to drive their fleet, then they wouldn't have any operations to begin with. And with health and wellness, it's about emergency medical technicians. So they're saying that the graduates lack practical practice on this. Caregiving, particularly for infants, children, elderly, and people with special needs. And a specific program for orderlies and nursing aides in hospitals. So those are the different demands or needs from the industries. But across all the 8 priority industries of the country that are envisioned to generate the most employment in this planning cycle, the common denominator or the common need would be the 21st century skills. So whether it be tourism, construction, IT BPM, agriculture, manufacturing, electronics, transportation, health and wellness, across all these industries, they're all asking for 21st century skills. And what are these? In a nutshell, as mentioned by Dr. Bryce a while ago in the introduction, these can be segmented into life and career skills, learning and innovation skills, and information, media, and technology skills. So, in essence, the 21st century skills are supposed to make our learners more effective in a more complex, a more digitally connected, and a more globally connected world that we're living in. So it's not just for the workplace, it's for the actual life of the graduates and their civic participation. And why are these needed by the companies? For them, they want their recruits to have these 21st century skills because they would teach their recruits nonetheless about their company-specific technologies when they're onboarded. And for them, it's much easier to teach the recruits their company-specific technologies if they're well adept with the 21st century skills of critical thinking, creativity and innovation, communication, collaboration, etc. And with the advent of the fourth industrial revolution, all these 21st century skills are much needed to adapt to the artificial intelligence in the workplace. So aside from 21st century skills that they ask for, they also ask for basic management and entrepreneurship skills. Of course, they want the workforce to contribute to innovation in the workplace, so they're asking for this. But if you think about it, these skills are actually corollary to the clamor for 21st century skills. For example, for you to be innovative in entrepreneurship, you need critical thinking such that you know what to address specifically in the workplace. You need to have creativity such that you know what to innovate on, and so on and so forth. So the implication for educational institutions of this clamor from the industries with regard to 21st century skills is, number one, does the educational institution's positioning fit the relevant area and industry profile? Because what I showed you was actually at the national level. But come to think about it, the Philippines has 17 regions and 81 provinces, and educational institutions are scattered in these regions and provinces. And we would need to find that perfect fit such that we can respond to the priority industries in these areas. For example, Region 4A, which is highly into manufacturing, for instance, has a very different need from Region 11, for instance, that has very much agri-focused and very much into the coffee industry. So the educational institutions, for instance, in Region 11, just can't copy the effective educational institutions from NCR and Region 4A because they would have a different need in that particular area, and the industry has a very unique profile. And the second question would be, how must the educational institution anchor the following systems on the priority industry's need for 21st century skills? So now that you've answered how you're supposed to position your educational institution, now the work with regard to curriculum development and instruction comes in. You now have to drill down on your standards and assessments. You have to make sure that your learning environment from the school and even beyond school is aligned to how you position your school. And of course, last but not the least, actually one of the very important is the professional development for the personnel, not just the teachers, but even the administrators of the school, such that they can lead the entire transformation of the educational institution into a 21st century learning institution that's directly responsive to the needs of the industries. So that's actually the last slide and the end of the presentation, and I hope that sharing our experience actually adds value, and I hope some of the clarificatory questions can shed light on some of the points in the presentation.
Thank you so much, Carlo. That's really highly informative, and more than anything, it should inspire our education leaders to really track themselves in and move towards that direction. I remember how Harvard defined a university, right? Most of our audience here for Hero Ed TV are the higher educational institutions. So the definition of Harvard is a university is nothing without its employed graduates. Right. So it's not about how many board passers we had, right? We're not there. It's important that we have a good performance. I mean, a good track on that. But that's not it. That's not what makes us a university based on this definition. So what really caught me in your presentation is you mentioned about self-mastery, Carlo, being a contributor to this development of the 21st century hireable skills. How is that so? I just want to understand more.
That's a good point, ma'am. And well, as I've mentioned a while ago, the self-mastery skills are actually anchored on what Dr. Murato mentions as the 7 lifelong learning skills that everyone should have to be successful as an individual and in the workplace and in their careers. To give a background, the self-mastery skills or the self-mastery book of Dr. Murato was actually a product of his Asian-wide research as a prerequisite for putting together the Master in Entrepreneurship program back in the late 1990s. And the finding was, for the successful entrepreneurs, these actually have the traits of self-mastery of the 7 lifelong learning skills. They were good thinkers, they utilized their intuition well, they had a very high adversity quotient. They managed their emotion well, and thus they were motivated. They were very organized when doing, so that's learning to do. And they were effective communicators, so that's learning to think. They knew how to craft a message in understanding who the message receiver is, and customizing the message that they would send such that the receiver actually understands and gets the message. And leadership is part of it, learning to lead. And last but not the least is learning to become the best entrepreneur that they can become. So when put together, these self-mastery skills, these 7 lifelong learning skills, come to think of it, encompass the 21st century skills that were listed on the table that I showed you as demanded by the industry. So in essence, what they're demanding now as 21st century, so this is being demanded by the industries now, this was actually put together into a book by Dr. Murato in the early 2000s, and that's why it's very relevant for all the courses, whether it be in the academe setting or in the corporate setting. It's actually the highest rated courses that we have because they find it very relevant as an individual, and when they actually become masters of themselves, they actually contribute and resonate with the goals and vision of the organization, for instance, and that becomes very powerful in pushing the performance of the organization. So if we're successful in pushing those self-mastery skills, we're effectively pushing the 21st century skills as well, and the graduates benefit from it.
All right. I benefited from that particular program because I was a graduate of the Masters of Entrepreneurship back in the Ateneo. My question now is there a way to measure before I graduate from the university, for example, and before I face the world of employment? Would it be a necessity as much as a requirement for the university to at least measure the employability skills quotient of its students? Because we cannot manage something we never measured. We know that, right? We just expect the scenario is the platform where Hero actually works around is more on developing the employability quotient and measuring it early on, as early as second year high school. I had programs that supported that. But when I look at the tools that we have used, this is why this question is being asked you, is because from the limited resources that I had, like 30,000 students, I found out that if we are to use our tool and expect for a second year student to at least achieve, let's say, 50% of these employable skills, right? They would be so far behind. They're either getting 23% out of 50% as expected, and then that goes on until they graduate, getting at least less than 50% of their employability skills supposedly from the measure that we're using. So how do we improve all of this?
Well, that's a tough task for the administrators of our schools because coming from the presentation, for example, as mentioned, we have to begin with the end in mind when
Right.
we're running our schools. And the end in mind is to have our graduates who are directly employable or immediately employable by the industries. And having said that, we should be able to call out the critical needs of these industries and be able to integrate that in the design of our curricula. And in the design of the curricula, very good assessment or performance indicators should be programmed as well, such that we can really measure how the students are actually being responsive to these needs of the industries at the school level. So,
Right.
for example, if it's an entrepreneurship positioned school, right? So, for example, if different grade levels would have a particular management function to focus upon. So, for example, in the first grade level, in the first year, for instance, if it's marketing, and all of the subjects of the school, whether it be from English to mathematics to the arts, etc., can be integrated in that. And very good performance measures in terms of grades, for instance, can actually be designed such that at the end of the program, or when you come up with a graduate of your school, the way he or she was assessed throughout the design of the school's program would be directly responsive to the needs of the industries. So, assessment is one thing.
Right.
Designing the assessment initiative such that it's directly aligned to the needs of your industries, of your priority industries, is another thing altogether. So, there has to be a balance of both.
Okay. Right. Thank you for that enlightenment. How about building this, because you have divided these Hirable skills for the 21st century into three, right? Of course, there are subcategories, and we can take a look at these subcategories. But my question is, how do we make sure that these are really, in an easy grasp of the students early on, even years before they leave the portals of their university? Because we see that the school is basically the womb, right? They're the womb. They give birth to all of these employable professionals, and they contribute to the workforce. So if the womb is not healthy, then definitely they would be giving birth to sick babies, right? So there has to be a way. What should schools be doing to keep all of this in this preparation in a
Well, they have to put together a very good support system in place. So having a good support system is a complex issue to tackle in a school, and it's a big task for all the leaders of the school. So it's pretty much into really making sure that the curriculum is responsive again to the needs of the industries. And when you cover the curriculum, it would include the design from the last level of the program to the very first level of the program, with all the materials that you have to put in place.
Right.
And the 21st century skills are not standalone subjects. It should be interspersed in all these subjects, in all grade levels. And in a way, these should come out as interesting subject matter. When I say interesting, it should be directly applicable in the context of the learners, such that they can really make sense of it, and that it can really put a mark on their learning. So it should be programmed that way in all subjects, in all program levels, such that when you get to graduation, it's very much ingrained in the DNA of the learners.
Right. What role you think will Bayan be playing specifically in the development or in the preparation for the 21st century Hirable skills for schools?
Well, Bayan Academy is actually employing a couple of capital formation strategies in the way we do our services or the way we deliver our programs. So the first strategy is actually intellectual capital formation strategy.
Right.
In essence, we go into different areas in industries, and in this sense, in this case, educational institutions, and we can put together very good situationers such that they can anchor their programs on these priority industries, on these critical development indicators that a certain area should aspire for. And given that very customized situationer, now the schools can actually customize the way they do their learning methodologies and materials. They can be guided through evidence-based research on how to lead their schools. And that would delve into learning materials development as well. So the materials that we develop are anchored on the priority industries that we cater to as well. So for example, in the Master in Social Entrepreneurship program that we co-deliver with Ateneo Graduate School of Business, a lot of our cases are actually done by us, such that it can be directly relevant for the learners. So that's something that we can do for the schools. That's intellectual capital formation.
Right.
The second is human capital formation. So as I mentioned a while ago, personal development in schools is very important. So we hope that we can instill these 21st century skills in the administrators and in the educators, such that they can democratize these skills to their learners. Right? So that's human capital formation, and that's where I believe the partnership of Bayan Academy and Hero will play a very important role in the near future, because we hope to push for these human capital formation programs in the schools that we hope to serve. The third strategy that we have is social capital formation. So Bayan Academy is a small NGO in NGO standards, but we're able to deliver a lot of programs and nationwide level programs because we actually utilize we leverage on the expertise, the strengths of our partners. Right? So that's something that we can do for schools as well. For example, in the province of Palawan, we're now working with Palawan State University, and we're linking them with the government and with the industries in the area, such that we can push for an honest-to-goodness program that's relevant for the industries in the province. So that's three. So we can do intellectual capital formation for schools. We can help them with that. We can help them with human capital development. So we can train their personnel. We can train their executives through our trailblazing programs, customized programs. And we can help them with leveraging on the critical networks such that they can address their own organizational weaknesses and become a better and effective educational institution.
Right. And I think given all of this, Carlo, it's also good that we're supporting the countryside human capital formation, right, or the development. The countryside manpower, I think we don't have enough of that at this particular time. That's why when I was part with the BPO, the IBPM industry, we really have a big shortage of manpower, the talents, because of these things. They're not yet in place at that time. So hopefully, given all these efforts, we can see some results, right? And it always starts with the school, right? If you have questions, because we have wonderful people in the room right now watching, I'd like to encourage you to just type in your questions at the chat box. You can just feel free. Mr. Carlos Sagon here is the program director of Bayan Academy, and is well versed in understanding how schools should be preparing their graduates for the 21st century hirable skills. This is an emerging business issue, a national business issue right now. We keep complaining, not having the right talents or not having enough from the schools, and we complain, we remain. That's why there is an action to all of these problems. We cannot just have the same problem again next year and say we don't have the right graduates. What came out in my experience many years ago that the industry really complains about, if I may use the word, is we are graduating students with a poor conceptual skills. Just to infer, why do you think so? Why do you think so? What should be needed to be able to develop graduates with high conceptual skills?
Mhm. Well, that's a very important ask that the industries communicated. And when I also took the Master in Entrepreneurship course, actually for me the biggest learning that I got was actually critical thinking. It seems like a simple notion, but when you become well versed in it, when you become an expert in it, it's as if you can tackle any problem that you're faced with.
Right.
It's because you know what's relevant in relation to a particular issue.
Right.
You know what's important. You know what you have to do urgently. You know what's doable and what's not. And you can make sense of the magnitudes. And because of that, you can actually cancel the noise, so to speak, with the different or with all the data that you can consider. And because of that, you become a more effective problem solver. And companies like that, because in companies, it's not a very straightforward problem A, solution A. Every day you'll be dealing with simple problems and you'll be dealing with complex problems.
Right.
And these critical thinking skills are necessary for these workforce, for these graduates to be effective in the workplace.
That's right. It's a personal question, but still on a professional level. Right. Question, Carlo. What has this pandemic taught you now that, from the position that you perform in Bayan Academy? What learnings has this pandemic taught Carlo Sagon?
Well, to be honest, this past year has been the most challenging year in my professional life. It has been the busiest. There was a time in March, April, May that we were really ideating on new strategies that we have to come up with. Every day, or weekly rather, we were looking at the cash flow of our organization, and we were thinking, up to how long can we keep all our people?
Right.
So there was a certain pressure that you had to do well with regard to this strategizing effort, because it's not just your job or your organization that's on the line, it's everyone else's career or future that's on the line. So you had to do good. So in relation to that, I think the 21st century skills actually played a role, because number one, critical thinking. Our objective was to be sustainable, but what is relevant for our operations, we had to dig deep to our mission, and we actually went back to the stakeholders that we serve. So the enterprises, the education sector, and those who we think would be unemployed because we're in the employment sector. So you see the programs that we came up with, although when we were ideating, we came up with dozens and dozens of programs. We actually drilled it down to those that we can actually implement. So creativity actually, when we went through the creativity exercise, it was actually critical thinking that led us through the right solutions to take on, right? And the collaboration really played a role, because we were a small group. We were divided into different small groups, and we were really working on different tasks, different accountabilities, and everyone's contributions had to be considered. Whether it was out of this world or spot on, you had to respect that, and that was something that fueled the entire creativity exercise. And all those ups and downs throughout throughout that ideation period actually led to the ideation of the programs that we have now. And with our initial runs of these programs, the feedback has been quite good. So they've been saying that it effectively achieved the objectives that we set out to do. So in essence, all that effort and all those sleepless nights in those months through the crisis that we worked on these programs was worthwhile, because we're now reaping the feedback, the good feedback, and we're actually helping the stakeholders that we aim to serve. So it's very heartwarming that it's actually being utilized now by these sectors.
Right. And of course, we benefited. Hero particularly benefited because now we can, we can just have this partnership. No matter how virtual, we are able to make a handshake basically, and there were great synergies that came along just because all of these wires fused in and we were able to get in. All right, so thank you for that, Carlo. Our leaders are always wanting to, education leaders, they're always wanting to know, what direction they should really take, and how they can really help their students, their schools in general. And they're listening to us right now. So what would be a good advice or message that you perhaps can give our education heroes in the room right now, or maybe those who will watch us later?
Well, a message for the leaders that we have now in the room or in this program this afternoon is I would like to go back to one finding from a research of a mentor of mine that she did actually with regard to her search for the master teacher.
All right.
And in her search for the master teacher, she found out that the responses of the students with regard to whom they think are the greatest teachers or the master teachers are not the ones who actually deliver good subjects or have a good mastery of the subjects or just teach subjects well. These master teachers are the ones who actually inspire their students to become the best people that they can become, not just in the subjects in the classrooms, but in life in general.
Right.
So for them, those are the kinds of educators that stick, that they don't really forget, no matter what stage they're in their careers. So I guess for the leaders of the educational institutions that we have on board this afternoon, I think that North Star of inspiring our student body is something that we can aspire for. We're in a crisis. A lot of the school stakeholders are going through this crisis, and a lot are dealing with so much stress in ideating on new programs, how they can adapt to e-learning, to online education. But we can be inspirational in how we deal with our different stakeholders, right? So that's for the school stakeholders. With our locality, we can inspire by making sure that our program designs, our educational designs actually contribute to the development of the area. Because we're not actually operating as educational institutions in silos. We're actually operating for the benefit of the area that we serve. So if we're able to actually produce graduates that can directly contribute to the development of the area, then we can inspire the area in general. And again, let's not forget the end goal of our educational programs, the industries as well, because we want our graduates to be employable, 21st century hirable skills, as our title suggests this afternoon. So we have to inspire our industry stakeholders as well, in a sense that they can trust us, that we're providing them with these graduates that are actually readily integratable in their operations and can actually contribute immediately to the performance of their companies. So if you want to be a great teacher, a great educator, a good educational institution, let's aspire to inspire not just the students, but the locality as well and the industries whom we serve as well.
Right. Well said, Sir Carlo. Thank you so much. I am just excited to be part of this big paradigm. This, you called it big, the BIG focus of Bayan Academy, and we're very fortunate to be counted as a partner for this wonderful initiative. So thank you so much. I would also like to tell everyone that this partnership with Bayan Academy entails partnership with you. We cascade this partnership down. This is not just for two companies doing this partnership, but this is because we would also like to partner with our partner schools with their partners as well. So it's like moving forward and engaging more and more stakeholders to really look into the very purpose, the very reason why we exist as a school anyway. It's not because we're here to improve our facilities. Of course, that could be one, to get our accreditations. That's another. But the real purpose, the heart of it all, is to make sure we really contribute to the workforce, to this industry workforce that is requiring hireable skills from our students. We are never a university or a college if we do not have employable graduates. That's it. That's non-negotiable as far as we are concerned. So thank you so much. I hope that our school leaders have been inspired. Thank you, Carlo. I have been inspired myself. So appreciate your insights, the nuggets that you have shared this afternoon. Hope to see you around soon again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bryce. Thank you, everyone.
Our pleasure. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we continue to develop contents as much as invite hero leaders from different partners from different universities and industries so that this platform becomes a platform for thriving. Hero Ed TV is the official platform created by Hero Summit to address specific conversations for executives, for leaders who'd like to make a difference, an inspiring difference. So thank you once again. Today is Friday. We're few hours away from weekend. I know that you will enjoy your weekend with your family, and I know that our Chinese community is celebrating their Chinese New Year. We give you our heartfelt greetings as well. Kong Hei Fat Choi, everyone. I almost missed that. Thank you again, and we all have this mission together. Mission employability. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you.